Be like house servants waiting for their master to come back from his honeymoon, awake and ready to open the door when he arrives and knocks. Lucky the servants whom the master finds on watch. He'll put an apron on, sit down at the table, and serve them a meal, sharing his wedding feast with them. It doesn't matter what time of the night he arrives, they're awake and so blessed. You know that if the house owner had known what night the burglar was coming, he wouldn't have stayed out late and left the place unlocked. So don't you be slovenly and careless. Just when you don't expect him, the Son of Man will show up. Peter said, Master, are you telling the story just for us, or is it for everybody? The master said, let me ask you, who's the dependable manager, full of common sense? The master that puts in charge of his staff to feed them well and on time? He is a blessed man if the master shows up when he's doing his job. But if he says to himself, the master is certainly taking his time, begins maltreating the servants and maid, throws parties for his friends, and gets drunk, the master will walk in when he least expects it, give him the thrashing of his life, and put him back in the kitchen peeling potatoes. The servant who knows what his master wants and ignores it, or insolently does whatever he pleases, will be thoroughly thrashed. But if he does a poor job through ignorance, he'll get off with a slap on his hands. Great gifts mean great responsibility. Greater gifts, greater responsibility. When I was in seminary, one of the jobs that I had two. One was to serve a small congregational church out on the plains of Colorado. But somewhere as you drove out to this church, you went back about 50 or 100 years. I was the first pastor who didn't speak German. And I got reminded of that every Sunday. Lovingly, kindly, but, I was just a little bit, I just wasn't German enough for them. The other job that I had was the night watchman at a mortuary. Now, it was a great place to study, because I started to say the place was really dead, but that would be a play on words. But it was very quiet generally. It was a good place to study. I had one fellow there who we switched off and occasionally worked at the same shifts, who knew that I was studying to be a minister. And he said, yeah, someday, and this was his way of kind of getting a little shot at me, I'm going to take care of my life insurance, but I've got plenty of time. Augustine, in his prayers. Now you have to understand, most of what we get of Augustine is of this great man of wisdom, great man of faith. But when he was younger, he was a bit of a scoundrel. In fact, one of his prayers was, God save me, but just not yet. I've got fun things to do. I want to get everything that's fun out of the way. And I've got plenty of time. Plenty of time. My nephew, just over a year ago, was meeting with his advisors, his fraternity advisor, and they were talking about things. Now, the fraternity advisor was a man of faith, and they had a thing where they could ask each other questions. The advisor asked my nephew, have you thought about faith? And my nephew said, not really, but I've got all kinds of time. A couple of weeks later, he was killed. We don't know how much time we have. And we spend our time procrastinating. Have you ever said, I'll get to it later? Let me put it this way. Is there anybody who has not said, I'll get to it later? Now, it doesn't matter whether it's your taxes or anything. But if you notice, when it's really fun, we always have time for it. We don't get to that later. We do it now. But with so many things, we do it later. We put it off. It's okay. We get lazy. We've got all the time in the world, and And so we'll take care of that when it's time to take care of that. Cody's death reminded me that we don't always have time to do that. Last night I told you I'm a football fan. I was watching the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. Jerry Rice was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, if you're a football person at all, and Jerry Rice's name goes, you go, wow, this man has set every record as a wide receiver for catching passes, for yards, for touchdowns. He got a pass in 287 straight games. Amazing. He said, I wish I would have enjoyed it. That I would catch 10 passes, 2 touchdowns, and I'd remember the one that I didn't get, the one I just missed. We put off so many things, including enjoying where we are. Christ calls us to be ready. To not put it off, to not think of all the reasons why we'll get it done later, to not take care of our life insurance. I still don't know what he meant by that phrase. But to live our faith, I'll take care of praying later. I've got too much stuff to do right now. I'll take care of doing Bible study or learning more about my faith. I'll take care of becoming the disciple I know I should be later. Because it takes too much work. It's not always fun to grow in faith. It's not always fun to look at those things. Think about it, folk. What started as something that is innocuous and can be taken care of fairly easily can become a cancer that takes life. Something that we get so used to doing, and it's so easy at the beginning to say we can quit anytime. I had a friend who smoked and he said, I can quit anytime, it's just not the time. I can do this anytime, and it starts out very easily. Habits that we do 1 or 2 times begin to build in, and then trying to break a habit that we've built. Be ready. Live your life each moment so that you're ready for the coming of the Son of God, however it comes. And I don't want to get involved in when Jesus is coming again, because from the beginning of the Christian church, they've been saying Jesus is coming tomorrow. And they've not been right yet. Hal Lindsey, for any of you who are old like me, remember Hal Lindsey in his book, The Late Great Planet Earth. He followed it up with a countdown to Armageddon, and he had his time set when the world was going to end. And I didn't do it, but I wanted to write him a letter the day afterwards saying, did you include daylight savings time? Or do you remember the great big thing that was going to happen on the move from December 31, 1999 to January 1st, 2000, and everybody's computer was going to crash, and planes were going to fall out of the sky, and it was going to be the end of the world. And I have my little Y2K thing that I throw every once in a while that crashes.